Hi, my name is Brandon Khoo, and here we are in LA with Mr. Glen Sobel, drummer for Alice Cooper, Jennifer Baton, and Paul Gilbert, in fact, as well, right? And Orianti,
yeah,
Orianti. So let's get to know more about Mr. Glen Sobel. We just had a few lessons and stuff, and so tell us more about your beginnings as a drummer. How do you start out playing the drums? And
okay, started in junior high and got into band class somehow, beginning band class. Every guy wanted to play drums, of course. They didn't want to play trumpet or trombone. They wanted to rock and play drums. So they had to make us pick numbers out of a hat to see who gets to play drums. It was like a lottery, sort of. And so I picked the right number, and I got to be on drums. And the rest, you know, is history, as they say.
Okay.
But I was very lucky.
Cool. Yeah, so your first band, when you first, how did you find your first band, and what band was it? A rock band?
You mean my first rock band? Because I was in band in school. There was, in junior high the next year there was concert band. And then high school, the next year after that was marching band and concert band.
Okay.
And then eventually jazz band at night.
Okay.
So I did as much of those as I could.
Okay.
But then finally I started jamming with guitar players and bass players. Didn't get in an actual band till junior or senior year of high school, but we were a real rock band with original songs. We'd write, rehearse, and play parties. And then when we were about 17, 18, we started playing some clubs in Hollywood, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you, your first teacher was, official teacher, I suppose, was it, Greg Bissonette?
No, he was a little bit later. My first teacher officially was Bruce Becker. Who's a guy he's like a big Freddie Gruber disciple, you know, and I started with him when I was a beginner, pretty much. I was in beginning band in junior high, and then I was taking lessons from him for a year or two, yeah.
Okay, that was before Greg Bissonette?
Yes. Yeah, I started with Greg when I was 18.
Okay, so it was 7 years after you first picked up the sticks?
I think so. I think you're right, yeah.
So you started, yeah, okay, so 7 years. Within that 7 years, were there any, I mean, obviously at this point in your career you're successful, you're playing for so many artists, and you pretty much one of the first call sessionists in LA, right? So
there's certain producers that I work for. It's all about being in with the producers. They're the ones that assemble the session musicians to make some good music. So
what were there any setbacks as a drummer initially, and how do you get over it?
Well, there's always setbacks. I mean, no one has a straight career path towards success. It's a lot of this, you know, ups and downs. It's just how you deal with that, and just realize that everybody has their problems and setbacks, and you just got to keep moving forward. If some project or band falls apart, you don't just give up. You keep going, right? If you're passionate about making music,
right?
Yeah.
So there was never a doubt when you were 11, when you first picked up the sticks. There was never a doubt of you going, you know, maybe I should do something else. Because
I didn't know right away I wanted to try and be a professional drummer, but I think the more I played and went to concerts and drum clinics, you know, and then the NAMM show, the big music convention, slowly I realized, oh yeah, well I want to do this.
Okay.
You know, it was a slow realization, I guess you could say. Yeah.
So there was, what was that one moment, one moment in your career that you went, this is it, this is what I want to do in my life?
Maybe the first time I went to the NAMM show when I was 17.
Wow.
Yeah.
17. So you went to the NAMM show before you decided that you wanted to play drums?
Yeah, I was way into being a drummer, but yeah, maybe that closed the deal. It's this, right? Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So are there any stories that you like to convey or tell, inspiring stories? You know, as Dom would say, it's a game-changing moment in your career where you went. Yeah,
you always remember those. There was the Guitar Center drum-off in the 90s. You know, winning that, which kind of made me and my parents realize that, okay, maybe it's more than just another guy that plays drums. Like there's something there, and that's a very intimidating event. Even more so now. It's bigger now than it's ever been, right? Okay. But it's that high pressure thing of having to play in front of judges on a drum set that's not yours, and you're not warmed up, and there's an audience full of 400 drummers standing there like this, just waiting for you to make a mistake, you know? Right? But no, that was somewhat of a game-changing moment. And then taking lessons from Greg Bissonette, and then him recommending me to play with Tony McAlpine.
Oh, okay.
Which was my first pro gig. That was surely a game-changing moment. And from there, you just hopefully it creates that snowball effect of one gig leading to the next, right?
You call this the bro hookup, right?
Yeah, well, your friends, your brothers, your friends, they hook you up more than anything. With Alice, that was the case.
Yeah.
That's how I got into that circle of people,
Okay.
through Tommy Hendrickson, who's a producer-writer that I've done a lot of things with over the last 15 years, but we were in a band together in the 90s. And so after that, he started to become more of a producer and writer, and he would get me in on his sessions. So he got me in on an Alice Cooper session about 4 years ago.
Okay, so you want to tell us more about how you got into that session?
Well, he was asked to put together the musicians to do this Alice Cooper session. It was us doing remakes of Alice's songs, where Alice was going to come in and re-sing School's Out, No More Mr. Nice Guy, the classics, a bunch of those, right?
Okay.
So a lot of bands do this, a lot of artists do this, more than you think, because when you hear it, it's an exact replica of the original. Reason being, when a movie or a video game or TV show wants these songs, they can go now to the artist and not have to deal with the old record label that might not even exist anymore.
Okay, right.
So we had to do note for note. I had to transcribe it, not just cheat sheets, but note for note. And Bob Ezrin was overseeing the whole thing, who produced it back in the day. He produced Alice and Kiss and Pink Floyd's The Wall and Peter Gabriel. And he's notoriously hard on musicians, especially drummers, right?
Okay.
So I knew this going in. So I over-prepared like I always do. So it went well enough to where a year later they asked Bob to produce the show, to rehearse the band. And so he said, okay, I'll do it, but I want to bring in some guys. He brought in Tommy, and he brought in me, and he brought in Steve Hunter, who played on a lot of Alice recordings in the 70s, the classic recordings. Yeah, so basically Alice said, okay, I heard him on the recording, because I had never met Alice. When you're a session musician, you often don't meet the artist that you're recording for. It's you, the producer, the engineer, sometimes the other session players. So they pulled up some YouTube video of me for Alice to check out, because he said something like, well, my drummer's got to be flashy or something like that. So they showed him a couple of videos, and he said, okay, that's the guy. And so I met Alice on the first day of rehearsal in 2011.
Okay. That was the first time you ever met him?
Yeah, like, hi, I'm your new drummer. It was weird, right?
Yeah. So cool. And after that, everything pretty much snowballed, and Orianti and...
Yeah, Ori came onto the gig in later 2011, maybe about 5 or 6 months after me. And she's still in the band. She's great, and she's got a really long solo career now. She's got a couple of records out. She's got a hit that she had in 2010. She's about to work on a new record. And yeah, we've done some solo shows here and there.
That's awesome.
Sure.
So any advice would you do you have any advice for younger, aspiring musicians and your fans in Singapore and well, all over the world?
Well, don't forget, this is about making music. I ask this at drum clinics a lot. Are we playing drums or are we making music? You got to decide. If you want to just play drums, fine. You can be in your practice room and work on all the licks that you want. But at the end of the day, all the technique isn't going to matter if you don't know how to collaborate with other musicians. So you really have to be somewhat of a music historian. If you want to be a great rock drummer, you got to listen to the greats and steal from the greats. You got, of course, the obvious John Bonham, Ian Pace, Mitch Mitchell, Keith Moon, but get deeper into it. There's Simon Kirke and Cozy Powell and so many other great drummers, John Densmore, Phil Rudd, the list goes on and on and on. You got to learn songs, play them hopefully with your band. Playing covers is a great thing because you're learning something about that drummer that's hopefully being put into your style when you have to learn those songs. And you may not like it until you learn it.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's happened, right? Oh, I don't like that song. And then after you play it, it's like, this isn't a bad song. I kind of like this. You get it more. Yeah, don't be closed-minded. I see that all the time. That there's students that come to MI, Musicians Institute in Hollywood, and they're right out of high school, and all their friends in high school said, we're only listening to hardcore underground punk rock. That's it. Anything else and you're lame. It's like, no. Wrong attitude. You're closing yourself off to so much music. In high school, I was listening to jazz fusion. I got into big 70s, 80s fusion phase. Weather Report, Mahavishnu Orchestra, Return to Forever, Tony Williams' Lifetime, everything. I saw certain records in Modern Drummer. People would talk about it and go out and get it. Right? And back then, you had to take a chance. You didn't know what it would sound like.
No YouTube, no.
Right.
No iTunes and stuff.
Yeah. So I'm still like that. I want to listen and absorb it all. And if there's a new drummer that comes on the scene, yeah, I want to check it out, hear what's going on. Or maybe somebody turns me on to a classic recording that I wasn't aware of yet. Okay. You're just constantly all about music, 24/7.
Which okay, I would like to. We won't hold you back anymore. Did you have any lick or a drum lick that you want to show or stuff like that?
Drum lick. Well, there's lots of licks, right? Yeah. But you know, it's always got to be applied in a musical sense, right? In context of the song. You don't want to practice on the gig and try some lick just to throw it in there, right?
Yeah.
Well, is there something specific you were thinking about?
One of your, or something that the drummers look at you play and go like, wow, you know, as an idea or.
Well, we were talking about the Herta.
Yeah,
today,
the Herta, yeah,
right?
I can talk about that.
Yeah, it's a concept. You can learn a lick, but I was saying it's more about concepts over just licks and patterns. The concept being that the Herta, you know, that's something that's 3 notes long. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you can put that over 6 teeth notes. You can make a 1-bar phrase out of that, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? There's a lot of ways to break that up. Right, you familiarize yourself with all the possibilities of that sticking pattern within 1 bar, and maybe expand it to 2 bars, 4 bars. But that's the first part of that idea to me. And then the next is now putting it around the drums. But you always start with the snare, you know. You know, what am I doing there? I'm playing all rim shots.
Yeah.
For a rock situation, you want that to be heard over the wall of sound that's the guitars and the bass. They just turn up. They don't care.
Many times like in high school, in school band, the school conductor or the band conductor will normally go like, don't play the drums so loud, right?
Well, okay, and that's a whole other thing. There are students that come in where I tell them, you actually need to practice playing loud. That's counterintuitive to what so many drummers think. You know, in school, you get the band director always going, percussion, you're too loud. Shh, quiet, quiet. They constantly get told this. So you become this timid drummer. Yes. Right? Yes. Or maybe you play a cover gig, a rock cover gig, but you're at some bar or restaurant where you got to keep the volume down. Right? But if those drummers want to move up and start playing club gigs, right, and maybe get a touring gig or something that's more of a non-cover situation at a restaurant, you actually have to work on playing loud. Yes. You have to work on playing soft as well, but there's certain drummers, they just naturally play loud, like cavemen, they got to work on the finesse and the softer playing. But a lot of drummers, they don't think about their tone because it's just hammered into their head that they're just loud naturally, right? But you really have to work on this. Your sound on the drums is going to come from your hands. So I always talk about those rim shots, right? And the placement of the stick. I check students' drumsticks a lot, right? Did I do that ever with you?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, you want to see where the wood is chopped up. And again, this is hard rock drumming, some pop rock, metal, whatever. If the stick is chopped up here too high, that means the rim shot is kind of like a timbali. Yeah. You know, that's useful if you're playing some more Latin type of. You can get all kinds of tones out of the snare, but for rock playing. Right, you want those even rim shots. So that's the Herta that I was just playing, and that would apply in that case. You want it to be heard over all the other guys that are just turning up to 11 in the band. When a drummer turns up, he has to physically play harder. So you want to be able to be relaxed, but have an intense feel, a relaxed intensity. It's not always an easy thing to do. You work on applying it around the drums. There's several voicings you can do. There's 100 voicings you can do. But you start maybe with this, like. See, I'm playing the first 2 notes of that on the top, right? And you work on that till it's completely just ingrained in your muscle memory. That's an important thing. Muscle memory. Your muscles feel, they know and they remember what it feels like to play that lick or that pattern, that beat, right? And then from there, there's so many other voicings that you can play with that. So, again, it's concepts over licks, right? You got the Herta or whatever, a paradiddle, single stroke types of fills. You work on one thing at a time. You work on improvising with the concept, with the metronome.
Yeah.
That's very important, because then you know whether or not you're rushing or dragging certain types of fills. Usually the problem is rushing.
Yeah.
And you realize, like, wow, I have to relax.
Yes.
When I do that beat or that fill. And then you do that enough and you naturally start to just relax when you play it without the metronome.
Yeah, yeah, correct.
Yeah, you start feeling that, and then the band will feel better and they'll say, hey man, you're sounding better. They might not know why. You're practicing with the metronome, you're working on your pacing and timing of beats and fills and laying back on certain things.
Yeah,
so, and, you know, and dragging could be a problem too. If it's a fast tempo and then you got to play some single stroke fill, problem could be dragging. So you realize, oh, you have to stay on top of it. You have to have a little more urgency to the feel of that beat or that fill. This is the stuff I talk about in lessons all the time. It's not what you do, but it's how you do it. Yeah, say that all the time.
Excellent. So we can, where can we find you on YouTube? Search for Glen Sobel.
Yeah.
Glen space Sobel, S-O-B-E-L. Website www.glensobel.com, right?
Yeah, sure.
Instagram, Glen_Sobel.
Yeah, Instagram. I had to think about that. Yeah, Twitter and Instagram, the same thing. There's so many social networking things out there, but the problem is drum students spend too much time on this. They're trying to put themselves out there in the band. No, practice. Yeah. There's plenty of time later for that. If you're in music school, spend your time practicing and not on Facebook as much. You know, you want to refine your craft before you put it out there for the world to see.
Correct, yeah. So Twitter as well?
Sure.
Yeah. So Glen_Sobel, follow him. And thank you for your time, Glen.
Oh, great to see you, bro.
We'll be at NAMM, so
it's a long week.
Yeah, long week. So search for Glen Sobel on all the platforms that you can find: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, media. Yes.
Thanks, dude.
No problem. Thank you for watching.